Let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with the main men, Martin and Dan, to give your full match reactions, the Lions Raw show to Aston Villa's absolute tactical masterclass in their victory against Manchester City on Sunday. What a result it was. And we're going to pick out the main talking points from the game, the performances, the masterful performances. I mean, we were talking before, and I'll get you boys in a minute, about who do we feature, and it was kind of just a list of players that we should feature. So I'm sure most of them will get a mention. Before we get into it, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We're marching on to 7,000 subscribers, on the road to 10K. You can help us get there. Like, subscribe, and get your comments, questions, everything in about that fantastic victory that we got against Manchester City. Martin, great to see you, mate. What a win it was.
Yeah, we were just backstage. I was just making sure my internet was okay, because I know the last few times I've had a bit of a shit hemorrhage, if you call it. Mind my French there, but well, obviously we're all good now. Everyone can hear me. You're all laughing, so it goes to show that I'm on point.
We can see you. Yeah, we're all good, mate.
Everything, but yeah, what a game! I was in my girlfriend's house watching it on Sky, and I was trying to make sure I wasn't putting anything in the group chat, because I know some people have watched it on different platforms. So I was probably well on time and well ahead of people. So I was keeping calm and cool in the group, but it was just an unbelievable performance, and to win 3 games in a row now at home against Manchester City goes to show the level we're at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Dan, you were at the game. I think the atmosphere was special yesterday, and it always seems to come out for these type of games. And I think after the the disappointing defeat in Europa League against Go Ahead Eagles, there was a kind of want to get back on track and make sure we won this game, and also sort of continue that momentum, because we talked about it the other week around the 3 league games we'd won, the 2 league games we'd won before that. Then the test was Spurs. Now the next test was Manchester City. Villa have passed those with flying colours. So must have been a fantastic game for you to watch and be at, and brilliant atmosphere to be involved in.
Yeah, I think it was there's conversation beforehand and probably on social media this would be the most Villa thing to go and beat Spurs, lose against Go Ahead Eagles, and beat Man City. It was good atmosphere beforehand. The first 10-15 minutes though, it was a bit like this is the City that we knew from a few years ago, because we barely got a sniff in the first 10-15 minutes, just couldn't get a foothold. But I think once that's sort of like 15 to 20 minutes, when we start to get a bit of a foothold, then I think it was like, okay, now we've got a bit of control. But yeah, it just seemed to well, it was a good atmosphere all afternoon. There wasn't sort of any anxiety. It didn't really feel, I don't know what it came across like on TV, but no, it was it was. I think if you've seen any of Max's stuff on the Villa on tour, he said it was absolutely bouncing, and it was great to be part of.
Yeah, and look, we've kind of generally had this situation, haven't we, with Villa, when they've tended to potentially be classed as the underdog. When we've faced Arsenal, we've faced Manchester City multiple times. We beat them 3 times in a row now at home, where we've kind of risen to the occasion and sort of proved a few people wrong, or proved a few doubters wrong. I think the test for Villa is when they are expected to win, and it's a big game that they're expected to win. That's what they've got to put right. But ultimately, at this moment in time, it was a top win and cemented us back in kind of that top echelons of the league, which was so important. But I think what was really pleasing to see, Martin, was the fact that we controlled that game, barring that first 10 minutes that Dan said, where we kind of needed to get our confidence up. We needed to get our foothold in the game. we absolutely bossed that game. We shut off any angles to play into Haaland. We shut off any time that Foden got on the ball. He had to go deeper and deeper for the ball. The two fullbacks marked 1v1 defending against the wingers brilliantly. And then not only that, we were fast, we were purposeful, and we were accurate when we were going forward. And we had multiple opportunities where we were playing it across our defence in their and City were putting every man behind the ball. So it wasn't just a win where we were defensively organised and sound. We were also controlled and threatening in attack. And we should have really won by more.
Yeah, we should have won by a lot more, but in the first half, most certainly. But I felt the first 10, 15 minutes, of course, Man City were more dominant. They were in control of the possession. We just had to kind of ride and weather that storm a little bit, which I think we were okay with. We weren't exactly uncomfortable with having the ball. Our shape was perfect. What I loved about our shape was we forced Man City into this wide, predictable play. Like, we didn't exactly let them go through the middle of us. We didn't let Reinders get running behind. We didn't let Bernardo Silva get runs in behind. We dropped Onana and Kamara like just on either side of Pau and Konsa, which for me was absolutely perfect to see that there was no space in behind for Reinders and Bernardo Silva to make. So we had to force them into the wingers, which didn't create a whole lot. Savinha wasn't on it. Doku, yeah, he had a bit of a bright energy spark, but he wasn't exactly setting the world alight. And it was just absolutely incredible, I felt. And I felt that when we grew into the game, possession-wise, what I loved was our ball retention. It was quick, sharp possession, getting up to the high ends of the pitch, committing Man City forward, and then we could just make that quick turn like we seen Buendia do in the first half, and just getting into an unbelievable position, finding players. That's exactly how I love seeing Villa play. Just you might not have all the possession in the world, but when you do have it, you can hurt teams, and that's something that really suits us. And just to kind of tie it with Go Ahead Eagles, which I know some people probably don't want to talk about that, but we don't suit this having all the possession and teams putting 11 men behind the ball. We suit being on the back foot more or less. Not a whole lot, but enjoying possession when we do have it, causing problems, getting high up the pitch very quickly. And that really hurt Man City because Man City's midfield became wide and open, and we just exploited that so much. And Watkins' hold of play at the first half was excellent. He was finding Buendia, he was finding Rodgers. Rodgers was finding the wide ball, and for the goal, I know it probably wasn't intended for Matty Cash because you could see Rodgers trying to go for the ball, but it goes right past him. And Matty Cash just great touch past Silva, whacks it with the left foot into the bottom corner, and Donnarumma was just left two-footed on the ground, nothing he could do about it. And it was just a brilliant first half, and we should have been ahead by like 2 or 3 in that first half, but unfortunately it wasn't. And then the second half was just a flip of a coin. Man City had all the possession. We didn't have too many chances, but we contained them so well. Like, we just were dominant physically. I felt we were just so good with that because we didn't give Man City too much space. We didn't let them come through the middle of us, and we got our due awards. And we got lucky with the offside call because our line was very good, and that was just good to see that we were all still in concentration, regardless, no matter what minute we were in. But we got the 3 points over the line, and that's all that matters to me. To get 6 points from Tottenham and Man City is a huge blessing because it really these 3 games, because we've Liverpool now next. These 3 games are going to break our season, and so far we've made it.
Yeah, it's I was saying sort of 7 points from those 4, Tottenham, City, Liverpool, and Bournemouth, and we could be. I know Bournemouth are going to be an extremely difficult game because they're flying up there. Don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but to already be sitting on 6 points from those 4 games is a brilliant return so far. Just before we focus on particular player performances, Dan, Unai Emery, when he comes up with these games where he sort of goes into every sort of tactical detail against some of the big clubs that we call the big clubs. It's just fantastic to see, especially when, you know, every player pretty much from 1 to 11 plus the substitutes that come on work in that fashion to the letter of exactly how he's told them to, on and off the ball, and to see it in action working. It's just so pleasing, and especially when you see, you know, some of the other iterations of Aston Villa that have gone before him, with, like, you know, Steve Bruce's Aston Villa when it was just put your boots on and pull your socks up, and it was, you know, Steven Gerrard's Aston Villa with the magic moments style.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful to see when it all clicks and comes into play, and every player is performing to the exact letter of how he expects them to perform.
Yeah, whether Emery's kidding all of us, but the fact he came out and said that's exactly how I expected Man City to play, and we've been working on exactly doing what we did for a couple of weeks. Whether he's kidding all of us or whether the bloke is genuinely a genius and he knew exactly what he was doing, I'd probably go for the second, that he is a genius. But yeah, I think you before we get into all the player stuff. And I don't really like Danny Murphy, but he did a good bit of tactical stuff on Match the Day, actually talking about how we set up. And he said he was surprised. I've seen a few in the comments saying that City fans were saying, "Oh, it was just because we got our starting lineup wrong, which was why Villa succeeded." But actually, like, you've still got to execute your game plan. Whether you put, I don't know, playing at the old Brazil, you put 11 Ronaldinhos in the team, or 11.
And look at the substitutes that he was able to make as well. Guardiola, like, it's not like he he had reserves or kids on the bench. It's like, you know,
but it's the same at any level of football. You've still got to play the 11 players that are in front of you, and it's not Villa's fault. It's not Emery's fault that Guardiola played Reinders as a number. Well, I think it was like, he played him a lot further forward, and you see the bits that Danny Murphy was talking about, where we got through that transition, whether it was Torres or through Kamara, and we had 5 or 6 on 4 at times, and it was just the final bit which didn't click. But yeah, I think tactically, as we've said, and as in the comments, we work and seem to execute this transition period better when teams actually come at us, because you look at some of the, I don't want to hark on too much about the earlier on in the season, but the Brentford game that we lost 1-0, they had one long ball and scored. We could have still been passing it around today, and we still might not have scored the way we were playing that game, but we were so comfortable on the ball. Whereas, yeah, I think, you look at Spurs weren't great, but we made the most of our chances in going forward. So I think when we looked at these games coming up with the Man City, and I think, as Martin said, with Man City, with Tottenham, Man City, Liverpool and Bournemouth, and I know on a couple of weeks ago, people were going, oh, I don't know, 5 points from those 4 games, and I think it was George was like, no, I'm going to go for 7, and someone was like, no, we're not going to pick up 2 wins there. But now you're like, we've got 2 wins out of.
It's funny what football can do. Now we can win all of them.
But that would be the inverted commas such a Villa thing to do, because again we had a pretty poor start to the season, and everyone was looking at these run of games going, we could be cut adrift from the European teams, which seems a bit strange after 8 games or whatever. But actually, you win these 2, and you, as Martin said, you really set yourself up for a big run in until the sort of end of the year.
Yeah, well, we had a couple of comments saying, you know, I think Richard in the chat asked the question: if we beat Liverpool, if we beat Liverpool, are we title contenders? And there's a couple of people in the chat saying, you know, if we do, then potentially, if and it's a big if, we beat Liverpool, then we are in the title conversation. I think Michael, Arsenal will bottle it. It's what they do. So, you know, this is where to be fair to Kevin, he's like our Kev, who's like sees the day, carpe diem, we can win it, all that jazz. So, you know, I'll give Kev his dues. He's always said that. But yeah, it is, and I think there's no reason to not get into that mindset of, look, we've had a poor start to the season. We've now sort of won these multiple games in a row, which Aston Villa have done under Unai Emery numerous times. So there's no reason why we can't continue this run to go, 6, 7, 8 games where we're winning or winning like, 7 out of 8 or whatever it might be. But then also kind of go on a little bit of a dodgy spell and then recapture that form again, because it's kind of what Villa do. What I do think would, it's a weird one really, and we'll get onto big player performances in a second. But the player at the moment, I'm really pleased is back, who I think will really help us with regards to beating those low block sort of teams, or adding that bit of creativity, or just adding that bit of nous, that tactical nous, is actually Ross Barkley. I think he's a massive player for if you need someone to score a goal from. I know we've been quite good at scoring goals from outside the box, actually, but if you need a player to kind of do something like that, score a goal from outside the box, he did it a couple of times last season for us, or help us control possession, or help us with a bit more creativity in certain areas in tight spaces, then he's not a bad player for it. You looked at when he came on yesterday, or he's come on in other games where he's given us that little bit of extra, or whether it be control or whether it be creativity, he's got that game intelligence. So I do think having him back to some form of fitness, Dan, is quite important for us.
Yeah, I think he went through that tricky spell, didn't he, last season, where when he was coming off the bench, it took him 5 or 10 minutes to get into the game because he was either misplaced pass or what have you. But then he grew into the game, and that's when then he got injured, and then we had that little spell where we were missing that sort of Barkley coming on at 55, 65, 75, just to add a bit of control, because whether it was Kamara or Onana that were absolutely dead on their feet, we missed that. And then obviously we had the sort of end of the season injury, gone AWOL in the summer. But I think he will bring that freshness and experience into that midfield. And again, I'm sure we might get onto it, but actually someone mentioned the other day that actually having Tielemans back will be having a new signing, because I think he'll have been out for nearly two and a bit months, maybe, which was initially going to be 2 weeks. And actually you bring back him and Barkley, and you've got sort of a midfield sort of base of your Kamara, Nana, Bogard, Tielemans and Barkley, and that's a great sort of 5 to be able to sort of rotate and bring off the bench if you need to.
Yeah, 100%. Let's get into some of the performances then. You mentioned he got his goal for the winning goal, actually, Martin, and a great goal it was, as you said. Brilliant first touch, leaves Donnarumma just standing flat-footed as it puts it into the opposite corner. Playing with a real bit of confidence at the moment, Matty Cash. But I think what I was most impressed with, it was the 1v1 defending. Just up against Savinho, up against Doku, up against potentially Foden, who was down that side, Nico O'Reilly, who came on and was really attacking. And what impressed me so much was any young footballer watching that, if they're looking for an example of how to defend 1v1, just watch Matty Cash's performance, because every time they faced him up, he got nice and low. His body positioning was perfect. He was if you look at his feet, he was matching the exact movement that the player who was trying to beat him was enacting. And then he had the perfect time of when to go for the ball. So whether that was trying to put a cross in, whether that was try to beat him, he had the perfect timing of when to put that tackle in. And that comes from focusing solely on the ball and matching the foot movement. And it was a brilliant lesson in 1v1 defending, and absolutely take my hat off to him, because he gets a lot of criticism. We know he can be a little bit rash in some challenges, but yesterday he was so disciplined, and he's been fairly consistent all season, and obviously signed his contract extension today. But brilliant performance from him, and he was still a threat going forward.
Yeah, I have to say Matty Cash has been head and shoulders above his standards, as opposed to last season and the season before, maybe because he probably wasn't playing at full fitness. He always had niggling injuries that would cause him problems, and it can affect your confidence as well, because you always feel like, is he good enough? Is he not good enough? And he would get a lot of stick on Twitter as well, because he's one of them sort of players with the fan base kind of divided. Is he good enough for Villa? Yes, he is. Or is it just a case of he's just there to make up the numbers? For me, I just feel like he's a mainstay. I just think that he's been there long enough now. He's in the system long enough. He's gone through, Dean Smith, Steven Gerrard, and now Unai Emery's, and he's still been the number one right back. So it goes to show he's gone through 3 different managers, and he's still the first choice. And I just feel like with Emery's system, he's so suited to the fact that we can just let our left back do all the bombing on, and Matty Cash can kind of have that more relaxed role as being as that false right back. And when we're in possession, he's high, he's controlling possession, he's not exactly cautious, but he's following instructions, he's making sure the simple passes are all correct. And I remember I can't remember, it was one of the European matches when anytime Matty Cash was passing back and he was getting a bit of stick and he gave it back to the fans, calm down, there's a reason why I'm doing this. Like, you have to remember, each professional footballer getting the instructions at the end of the day. We're just the spectators watching it. And if we're able to give a bit of stick, he should be able to give it back, And that's just the way it is.
And also, Martin, I mean, you've done some coaching before in your time. Like, when you see even a semi-prof, I know we all have our opinions. I totally get that and respect it and all that sort of stuff. But it's like, even when you see a semi-professional footballer actually play football, they're unbelievable. So to see an actual Premier League footballer, if we ever got on the pitch with them or ever played any side of football with them,
we'd be put on toast, mate.
Yeah, it would just be an absolute another level of these people aren't humans. That's what it would be like.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, I've done a bit of coaching. I'm not comparing myself to Unai Emery of any of the sort, but I have won 3 trophies in 2 years, just saying. But
anyway. There you
go. Well, I'm just saying, the way I would like to say to my fullbacks is exactly the way Unai Emery likes to. I like to have one bombing on. I have one sitting there, playing a little bit of football, doing his
Martin, I've actually heard on the grapevine that Unai Emery wants to match the way that you play the fullback. So don't do yourself down there, Martin.
Look, if he does, he can ring me, but I want compensation. I'm not asking for too much. I'm only asking for a house, a few cars, yourself, a few luxury models in the back garden, preferably beach volleyball players of the sort. You know what I mean, lads? I'm not asking for too much here, but no, I have to say that going back on point here with Matty Cash, he's been absolutely fantastic. He's had a great few weeks. A pass for the winning goal against Tottenham, the winning goal today, and his contract extension as well. So it goes to show that he's going to be a mainstay now for the next 4 years, and obviously there's an option for an additional year. So hopefully 5 more years of Matty Cash to come.
Yeah, it's amazing the turnaround, and it's funny because Matty Cash generally gets talked about if he's putting in a stinker or he's made a mistake. I think the fact that no one's really talking too much about Cash's mistakes means that he's playing really well. What I want to say though, Dan, is just quickly to finish up on Cash, is I've usually said with him is that if you give him one task to do, so if that's man mark this wide man, don't let him get any space and just do your job on him. Don't worry too much about going forward. Don't worry too much about supporting the attacking midfield or the right winger. Just do this job. He'll do it well. Or if you say, look, Cash, I want you to get forward. I want you to overlap. I don't really want you to worry too much about defending. He'll do that well. But this season, at this moment in time, he seems to be able to do multiple things. He seems to be able to mark his wide man, do that 1v1 defending. He seems to be able to keep that high line and keep that consistent line. He seems to be able to get forward and support the attack or shoot from outside the box. He seems to be able to balance multiple things at the same time at the moment. And I think that's what's really impressing Aston Villa supporters at the minute.
Yeah, I think, this isn't to take anything away from Cash, but I think with the way that Emery sets up as well, certainly on that right hand side, with Kamara dropping in when he bombs forward, and obviously Konsa is or was a right back at some point. He's got that trust. If he does bomb 60 yards forward, Kamara's happy to drop into the right back's position, and there's cover there. So I think he's, and that's obviously not detracting from his defensive ability, but I think there's that trust that actually, if he goes forward, there are people that are going to sit in or fill in for him. But yeah, as Martin said, sort of defensively, he's been great. But I think the problem is any defender makes a slight error that leads to a goal, they are always going to be the ones that, like, it's their fault we lost, but it's not necessarily. It might not be your strikers who might have had 8 opportunities and they haven't scored any. But I think he's been great. But just going back to the him v Doku situation, or him v any of the City players, it's the right back against Doku that cost us at the Etihad last season.
It was, yes.
And this isn't, and I'm not. This isn't a right. Let's slam Axel Disasi. We could have got Champions League, but it was his fault. But actually, because Disasi wasn't right on him, allowed him to turn and run at him. His obviously ball came across. I can't remember who scored for City, but even watching it, you could probably see it on TV. He was so tight with Doku and any of the right wingers that as soon as they turned, he was in the face. So yeah, defensively he's been great, but also he's I think his performances for Poland, where he scored 2 in the international break, I don't know, the other week, sort of maybe put his hand up to Emery going, can I shoot from 20 yards? And and he's scored 2 now from outside the box. And I'd hate to say it, but he's scored more than Watkins at the moment.
Well, gauntlet laid down, and we'll come to Ollie Watkins in a bit, to be fair. As another defender who I think we need to speak about is Ezri Konsa. I mean, I don't think the superlatives, I don't think we can have the words for him at the moment, Martin. I think the way that he's developed into this leader on the pitch, the way that he's so calm now, he's not really that Ezri Konsa that used to have a go at everyone on the pitch, even when he made a mistake. You know, after the event, you'd see him sort of having a go at people. And it's like, well, you know, get your house in order a little bit first. We're not seeing those kind of slight inconsistencies at the minute. But his performance yesterday, not just positionally, not just the blocks, not just the headers, the way that he was coming out with the ball, the way that he's marshalling the defence, the way that he's encouraging those around him. Just such a leader now on the pitch. And we talked about how, you know, Tyrone Mings is that presence, and he still is. But Ezri Konsa is stepping into that role brilliantly, and he's got to be up there with the best central defenders in the Premier League right now.
Yeah, and dare I say, he might be slowly becoming Aston Villa's best centre-back ever. I know that's a big statement to make when you consider you've got big names like Paul McGrath, Martin Larsson, Olaf Melberg, but I just think that the way he reads the game, the way he's taking on his leadership role with 2 hands, and one thing as well, his reading in the game on the weekend was exceptional. I mean, when Foden could have played a simple in-behind pass that would have turned any defender on their backside, he was there front and centre, ready, anticipating the pass, because he knew Pau Torres would have done his job in trying to block Haaland as much as possible. But he just intercepted that pass, which I felt unbelievable. And then, not only that, picked out a pass straight after, while under pressure. It goes to show now that he's got a calmness about his game when he's in possession. And for me, it's simple to say he's England's best centre-back. I just think he's a guaranteed seat on the plane for yourselves, England, to go to the World Cup. I just don't think there's any debate. In my opinion, I think he should be the first name of the team sheet. In England, he's the first name on the team sheet at Aston Villa. And I did see a little thing on Twitter, Transfer Live Feed or something, I think it's called, saying that the likes of Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, all the big 6 clubs were looking at Ezri Konsa. And truth be told, I don't think Konsa's going to go anywhere, because I seen a post then as well from Damien Vitagani on Matty Cash's contract extension, but there was a little hint of subtle message on it saying hopefully more contracts to be signed soon. So does that mean that is Ezri Konsa going to sign a new deal to tie him down? Hopefully so, because I think we need to tie all these players down now and just really get a flow going within this squad. And I just feel like Konsa, for me, it wouldn't surprise me, to be honest with you now, lads, if next season Konsa is Aston Villa's captain, because I just think his leadership is fantastic. You know, the way he plays is exceptional. His reading of the game. So it really wouldn't surprise me if McGinn takes this like sort of like a step back role, which you've all seen captains do in the past, and Konsa just takes that captain's armband.
Yeah. Few comments. Michael, best English centre back without a doubt. Michael Huggins, Konsa is a different level now. Rich, King Konsa best in England. Sprigg, Konsa is Dean Smith's best signing in his opinion. Everyone raves about Gahey, but Konsa is miles better, says Richard. Konsa has to be first choice for England, says Ant. So many. Rachel there. We'll have to enjoy them while we can, as there's loads of clubs interested now, and this is what we're talking about with the contract situation. Dean Smith must be very proud to still see his players at Villa Park. Absolutely. And Kevin's got the chant there. I'm sure you were singing that loud and proud in the Netherlands, Dan. Rhythm is a dancer, concert is the answer. But yeah, brilliant stuff. And Rich there restarted his membership. Now a member for 22 months. Phenomenal support for the channel, mate. Thank you. Awesome Unai masterclass in tactics. Absolutely. But your view on Ezri Konsa, Dan, I mean, his performance yesterday just fantastic. Alongside Pau Torres as well, you know, that they're sort of becoming this real partnership now, and it's great to see, because I think even last season, even at parts this season, we were saying, you know, almost that kind of Steven Gerrard, almost back to Dean Smith style defensive line was still our best, you know, with Mings and Konsa, that centre back partnership. But Torres particularly has stepped up in that physicality stakes, in the reading of the game, in that sort of dominant centre back era that you kind of need to have. And Konsa's got that reading of the game, as Martin said, that silky, that speed to get back into position, but also has worked on, as I said, those leadership skills and that sort of calmness that he maybe needed to work on, in terms of, you know, sometimes that mentality, or sometimes, you know, that sort of, I don't know whether it's sort of blaming other players or that sort of thing, but they seem to have got that blend right now at the minute, and it's working really well.
Yeah, I think you look at teams of the past that have done well, not necessarily won loads of stuff, but have done well. They've had a good centre back partnership, and if there have been changes, it's been very little. And I think, as you say, we'll go back to Konsa, but Torres has sort of put his hand up and not really done anything to warrant being dropped for Mings. And as you say, I think if you were to look at things from when Konsa and Mings were our centre back partnership in the first year back in the Premier League, and you said, "Oh, we've done this really well, we've done that really well, the team's progressed," but then someone goes, "Well, you're still playing with two centre backs that you had 5 and a half, 6 years ago when you stayed up on the last day of the season." So I think, yeah, he's got that partnership now. But the thing that I think is deceiving for a lot of players and a lot of opposition fans is actually how quick Ezri Konsa is over the ground, because he's got that sort of swagger about him, that he doesn't look that quick, and then all of a sudden he gets in a foot race and he beats the player to the ball. But you sort of, I always have a joke with the guys who sit around me. He's got that classic Konsa-esque sort of flop to buy a foul, that someone will breathe on him and he'll go down when he's 6 yards from his own goal and manage to win a foul. But
he always does that, doesn't
he? Every time you can see him with he's facing the whole 10 with the ball the wrong side of him, and you're like, he's going to go down here. He goes down, free kick, and you're like, that's the Konsa.
I think the pleasing thing as well is that, particularly in the game yesterday, and particularly against Tottenham as well, and we've I think we've criticised multiple times, and maybe it's the case of why they do it, particularly in pre-season games and that sort of thing, to kind of rehearse it. But it was noticeable yesterday the amount of times that the ball would go to Martinez, the ball would go out to Konsa, it would go into Kamara or out to Cash, and then back. If they couldn't go forward, it'd go back to Kamara and back to Konsa, and they just didn't panic. They just that ability there just to receive the ball under pressure. I know we still don't like it as much. They didn't panic, but they also, if they needed to go long and play that control ball into sort of the midfield area or up top, they would do it. Yeah. And I think that's a key part of the sort of the not panicking in those positions.
Yeah, just to jump in on that is that I was fortunate when there was the World Cup a few years ago to go over to Abu Dhabi when Villa had those couple of friendlies against Chelsea and Brighton, and obviously there was a few. See, Martinez was obviously the World Cup and a few of the others, but you still had Mings, Konsa, obviously Cash had gone, but Emery for nearly half an hour did that. Robin Olsen into Konsa, back to Olsen, into Mings, back to Olsen, to I think we had Ludwig Augustinsson or the Swedish goat at right or whatever. And literally he did that. He did about 6 passes. Right, stop, do it again. And that was with like no pressure. And he probably used, there was about 30 Villa players, including a load of youngsters, and probably 7 players for half an hour touch the ball because he was like, right, do it again. And then you had a couple of the coaches that would then press Olsen, and then he'd go long. So like this sort of stuff is like, he's probably now, whereas Villa fans, you're like not as nervous because when they first started doing it, you're like, we can't do this, we can't play like this. Just play Allardyce ball, just lump it as far as possible. But they clearly do this day in, day out, and are confident in their own ability to play with their back to goal and play these triangles or routines. So yeah, it's not as nerve-wracking to watch now as it was probably 3.5 years ago when it started.
Yeah, and I do think it's important that they have sort of integrated this bit more of a direct ball into midfield, and Emi Martinez can't really be. We can't ignore the fact that he's got passing ability to play it through into midfield and to play it out wide into the channels as well. So that's really important as well. But another player that I do want to come to, just a quick one. First of all, there's talk in the chat about Jamaica. I want to really pray for everyone in Jamaica. Our thoughts are with them as reports of hurricanes about to hit. So really want to sort of wish anyone there much best wishes. Hope everyone's safe and everything like that. So yeah, please, our thoughts are with everyone over there. And also, we've got nearly 250 people in the chat. So please do hit the like button. We've had a few people saying hit likes and hit subscribe as well. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers. So please do help us get there. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and keep your comments flowing in. But yeah, the player that I do want to really focus on, who I called out, not that he would have listened or watched or done anything like that, but called out earlier on this season about, utilizing the gifts that God has given him in terms of his 6'5" frame, his ability to cover the ground, his long limbs that can reach tackles and reach positions that no one else can do, and dominate midfield like multiple other players in the Premier League. And he can be our destroyer and our player that can win us games on his own. And yesterday, Amadou Onana did that in spades. After that first sort of 5-10 minute spell, he grew into the game and was an absolute colossus, Martin. And again, as I said about Ezri Konsa, the blocks, the reading of the game, the tackling, the mentality, the attitude, and then the ability on the ball, the short passes, the running with the ball, the longer passes that were there. If you're talking about an all-round midfield performance, Amadou Onana produced it against Manchester City.
Yeah, just before we get on to Onana, it's slowly becoming a reputation, Rich, that you seem to be slating players and they all start playing well again.
Hey, well,
Uh,
maybe I should just do it all the time.
yeah, you should just turn around and just say Ollie Watkins is absolutely the worst finisher known to man and watch him get a 40-goal season. But no, I just have to say on Onana, he was absolutely colossal in that midfield. I mean, he was going through the wars as well, wasn't he? Like the amount of times like doctors and physios had to come out to him onto the pitch, like, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" And I'm pretty sure he was probably saying to him, "Yeah, I just need a minute." Like he was just going through it, and I have to say, like he was so good, like pressing. I mean, when Oscar Bob won the ball in midfield, and I just love Onana for once in his life. He actually used his body and just put him to the ground and said, "Not today, little fella. Just not today." And absolutely just love how he just so colossal, bodying players and just his interceptions. And one thing I love as well when it came to the set pieces, he was there for every single header. But once he was actually using his height, there was no one smaller than him reaching over him. He was absolutely colossal. For me, he was man of the match. It was that simple. Like he was just so good, and I hope that now this weekend when we play Liverpool, he puts in the exact same performance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Dan, he's got that ability, hasn't he? He has got that ability. It's just so many people in the chat, Rich saying there, just wish he could stay clear of injuries. Kevin, it's his injury record. If he can stay fit, I mean, I'd even go so far as to for Unai Emery just to say, look, have a couple of days extra off. Like, just be right for the Saturday. Give your body a bit more time to rest. You're a bigger frame than everybody else in the team. Maybe he does need that little bit extra recovery time. Because if we can get that Amadou Onana on the pitch, people are talking about title races. He could be the key for that to happen, because if he's playing in the way that he did on Sunday in multiple games across this season consistently, then there isn't a midfielder that can really get near him physically. It's just those injuries, and it's that sometimes that mentality of maybe just being a little bit too casual. But when he's on it, as he was in at parts against Tottenham, because he was, as Martin said, he was winning big headers into the box against Spurs. But then Sunday against Manchester City, oh my word, what a performance!
Yeah, I think he's a player that, as Villa fans, we've probably wanted in the centre of midfield for a very long time, because we've had some great players in the central midfield, but actually we've not been blessed with a load of height.
Yeah,
you look at like your Petrov and Barry when they used to play together, two unbelievable players for Villa in midfield, but actually the aerial presence in midfield, we've always, I say always, certainly the last 10, 15 years, we've not been blessed with much height. So when he signed, you're thinking, right, there's someone who can win headers in midfield. He's got a great engine on him. He's got on paper, and I know football's not played on paper, but he's got all the attributes in terms of he scored goals, he can track back, he can go box to box, he's tall, and then he gets injured, and you're like, we've sometimes lost that bit of bite in there. But yeah, every time he goes down, you just think that, joking wise, because when I sit in the Holt end, he blocked one of the shots. I think did it hit him in the face or something?
Yeah.
As soon as he went down, the guy behind me said, "Right, that's him out for 6 months with a broken nose."
I swear, sometimes he does it for a bit of effect, though. He definitely does it on purpose.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, if we can keep him fit, and he can and we can give him the game time to get back that match sharpness, which he seems to be finding now. I don't think you look at we talked about how good Konsa and Torres are, but actually in terms of in the Premier League at the base of midfield, surely you've got to have Kamara and Onana up there as one of the, and I don't want to say the best, because someone somewhere will go, oh, you haven't thought about this person or this person, but actually they've surely got to be in the conversation as being two of the top sort of double pivots in that sort of base of midfield in the Premier League when they're both fit.
Yeah, no, it was a masterful performance, and you're talking about Onana and Kamara being that base those two central midfielders, and there's no reason why Tielemans can't play in that area further forward from them, because he's got that creativity, he's got that ability to play the quicker pass. So that's definitely something to consider. And as Rich said there, what's going to happen when Yuri comes back from injury? It's a nice problem to have, but that's what we've got to make sure we've got those players all in contention. Rodvick says Onana was amazing. That's the performance we've been waiting for. I just want him to stop going airborne when he gets fouled. Dude, you're 6'5". Don't throw yourself in belly flop. But Spriggs says Onana didn't win a header yesterday. You're 0 out of 4. Well, I swear he won some headers going into the box.
I swear I'm watching it there.
There was one that he headed it like it was like an amazing challenge where he dived and headed it away. I swear he did. Michael said his legs just get the ball in every challenge. We would be lucky to get him half a season out of him, unfortunately, says Gary. Man with a golden gun said the way Onana got back to tackle Haaland a few times was just pure gold. He didn't miss as many games at Everton, says Ristos. He is affected by our bad luck with injuries. For the moment, he wore claret and blue. A very good face block, says Adamski. And Michael said he did get his man of the match vote on the Villa site, but Cash got awarded it on the Villa. But I think Onana did get the man of the match from Sky, didn't he? Onana stats: blocks for ground duels 1, 6 out of 7 attempted, clearances 3, tackles 3, interceptions 1, pass accuracy 97.7%, completed 42 out of 43 passes. That's just absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. A couple of just, I guess, little things to mention in passing, Martin. I know there were so many other performances. I think we've given Torres a mention. Obviously, Kamara next to Onana was brilliant. Morgan Rogers getting better every week. But I guess a couple of little side points. Emi Buendia looked so sharp, didn't he? And it's such a shame to see him have to go off with an injury. I saw that physio guy who tweets out some really good stuff, mentioned about what it could be, and whether it's a sort of a muscle or a bang to like a particular bone could be sort of 3 to 4 weeks. But then if it's a break, you could be talking 3 to 5 months out. So it's all about getting the scan. So hopefully that's something. It's not too serious, because Buendia has been the catalyst for this run of form, and it's just such a shame, as he was really playing well on Sunday as well.
Yeah, I think for me, I know I've made a statement before, and I'll say it again. I just think he's been Aston Villa's best player this season by a long mile, and I know the standards were quite poor, but when you've seen the standards were high now the last few weeks, Emi Buendia has still been head and shoulders above everyone else, in my opinion. The game against Man City, I felt that was the best he was playing in that spell that he had, the way he was torn, in possession. And I remember the one turn he got, completely took one of the players out of the game, ran with the ball, put Ollie Watkins straight through, and I was just saying to myself, this is the Buendia we've all been waiting for. This is now the Buendia that is going to come into his own. And it was just unfortunate the injury he got. And I'm hoping it's not too serious either. I'm hoping it was just a case of that he got the boot on his foot as just a precaution, maybe to protect them. And, the small little stuff that you do for players just to make sure he's not doing too much damage to it after coming
all
off.
The time, don't they? They tend to wear those boots all the time. Yeah, they tend to wear them.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen it before, where you've seen even Alex Moreno had it done to him. Remember when he got injured before and he was back playing then the next week. So it's obviously just a precaution thing, and hopefully that's the case. And then when Sancho came on, I'm obviously going to just probably talk about him a little, because he does tie into Buendia a little bit. It was not really anticipated for Sancho to come on then. More or less, he was going to get the half an hour, 35-minute mark, where he would play more or less towards the end of the game. But for me, that Buendia, he was just absolutely fantastic. He wasn't out of place. And, we always did say in this channel, and even probably other accounts on Twitter would say it, that Buendia wouldn't suit these type of games because you're coming up against better players, better pressing. But he didn't look out of place. Anytime he got the ball, it was quick, it was sharp, he would turn out, take players out of the game with passing, take players out with his skill. And I just feel like that Buendia was on the roll, in my opinion. If the way he's going, and hopefully this injury is not too serious, probably would have been Aston Villa's player of the season.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I mean, like you say, hopefully it's not too serious and he can be back fairly soon. We just, they do tend to wear those protective boots, I think, just to compress everything and keep everything protected and tight. So that's hopefully the case. Martin mentioned about Jadon Sancho, Dan. He came on, as I say, earlier than anticipated. Didn't look happy when he got taken off in sort of the 75th minute. But as Martin mentioned, he was probably only planning to come on, maybe half hour to go, 20 minutes to go, that type of thing. So I think maybe the media are trying to make a story out of it because it's Jadon Sancho. Unai Emery's done this multiple times. He's done it with Morgan Rogers. He's done it with Leon Bailey. These wider players who have to put in a lot of hard yards, they have to understand that there's a tactical point in every game where something might have to change in terms of maybe dropping someone deeper, bringing on a more defensive player, getting more control in the game. It's not a personal thing. It's a tactical thing. And he was having a good game, but you did see for that sort of 5-minute spell before he went off that he was giving the ball away a little bit. We were looking a little bit more exposed on that side that he was playing. So it was understandable when he did bring Gesson and Barkley on.
Yeah, I think we sort of got to, I know they're professional footballers and they probably still, if they don't have a pre-season, return with 0.003% body fat and all that nonsense. But you sort of got to remember that whether it was his doing or United's doing, he didn't really play a single minute of any football or any competitive football for probably 3 and a bit months. So I think, yeah, okay, it's, and as you say, because it's Sancho and because everyone seemingly wants him to fail, that they want to make a story out of it, the fact he got hooked. But actually, like, he played 65 minutes on Thursday in Holland, and then he came on probably 40 minutes earlier than he was even expecting to come on. So actually, Emery will know why he did it, but it's quite possibly he's just managing the workload, because we know that we've got another big game on Saturday night, and then after that it's another European game, and then it's Bournemouth at home 3 days after that.
Yeah.
If Buendia is out for, let's say worst case 3 or 4 months, we do need to manage players' workload, and I think they probably showed it more close-ups on TV, but he gave the ball away a couple of times, but actually he looked like he was blowing out his arse a bit as well.
He had to work hard. Like, I've been impressed with his work rate, and particularly in the first half, the sort of 15, 20 minutes that he first came on. I mean, the amount of running he was doing up and down that line, supporting. Was he on Cash's? Digne, supporting Luke Digne. Like, it was crazy how much work he was having to put in.
Yeah, I think these, and again, there are a couple of bits where he was doubling up with Cash or Dean, depending which side it was, where he was on, and that's where, again, we may or may not get onto sort of guess on, but you sort of, when Bailey first came, going forward, if he wasn't injured, was superb, but it was always going back. He'd sort of jog back, but actually, they say defense is the best form of attack. And yeah, you could have Jadon Sancho hovering on the edge of the opponent's 18-yard box, but actually, if you've got 10 opposition players that are into our own half, it's no good. So and I think that's where probably Emery's got into maybe Gesson or Sancho or some of them, to say you need to help us when we go back to go forward. And yeah, I know when he's probably on big money and what have you, and people want him to be scoring goals, but actually you people don't thank him or give him the credit doing the defensive work, which actually may have been where Emery said, that's what I want you to do. If you get a chance, then take it, but that's where I need you to help. So yeah, no complaints from me.
Yeah. Talk about scoring goals. The sort of quick talking point. We have to mention Ollie Watkins, and lots of people in the chat talking about him. There's differing views here or there, with people saying he's not good enough, didn't have a good game. Other people saying that he did have a good game. And for me, I actually think he led the line really well. I know me and Martin were talking about this before we came on the show. I thought he occupied the centre backs. I thought he made runs into the channels. I thought he laid it off well. He held the ball up well. It just seems to be when he's in those positions where it was like trademark Ollie Watkins, where he'd be in that inside left, inside right channel, where he'd drop that little step over in and then take a little touch outside and whip it across goal. He's just not doing that at the minute. And he seems to be, when he's played through, like Ross Barkley played him through, you mentioned Emi Buendia played him through, Martin, it just doesn't seem like he's got that. I don't know what it is. Like, he hasn't got that sort of ruthlessness in him yet to like just take it on and just strike the ball. What do you think it is? Like, as a striker, do you have to score to have a good game? Is that where we are now these days? Or can you lead the line well and not score and have a good game?
Look, I think you can lead the line and not score and have a good game, but your main objective really as a striker is to score goals. Now, at the minute, Ollie Watkins only has one. Just one. And I just think that if he had scored in his last few games and say he was sitting on 5 or 6 and he didn't score today and had a great game leading the line, that's fine. But I just think despite him having a good game leading the line, in my opinion, it's just kind of paper over the cracks. And I just think he's at an age now where he should be experienced enough to know where he needs to be, where, he can punish teams, punish defenses. And he's just not doing it as of late for me, in my opinion. Like, he gets a lot of easy chances, doesn't score them, but he'll score the hard ones. Like, it's great scoring all the hard ones, but if you can't score the easy ones, you should have been sitting on 25, 26 goal a season striker then, if that's the case. But I don't know really, because Buendia's put him through times. I know Barkley put him through, and instead of like taking that touch right next to him where he was acres away from Ruben Diaz, to be honest, taking that touch, maybe bringing it to the left a bit, he kind of let it roll on, and by the time he wanted to touch it, the ball was too far ahead, and Donnarumma then made himself big. I just think that he's losing, I think, that killer instinct for me, in my opinion, and I feel like we probably need to get someone in there who's going to be a bit more ruthless, have that killer instinct. And while, yes, you could say Richie leads the line really well, his pressing is very good, his hold of play is really good, and I'm not going to take that away from him. But that being said, he hasn't done enough for me in the goal scoring department now this season. And now, look, I know it's early doors and it's World Cup year. He could probably kick on in the new year and prove us all wrong again, like Ollie Watkins is with the purple patch performances that he gets. But there's only so long you can get away with that. And I just think now, with him being at 29 years of age, coming to 30 probably, he needs to be showing some, like, not the old Ollie Watkins of press, be here, be here. He now needs to start preserving his energy a bit more. He's going to get older. His body's not going to do what it wants him to obviously say to do. Like, your brain will say one thing, but your body will always tell you another. So he needs to be kind of clever and be smart. Right, I may as well just sit center of the box here. When my chance comes, I'll take it. Because that's the difference between a good striker and a great striker. Good strikers will lead the line well, score goals when they get the performances, but great strikers will take any half chance and try getting into the back of the net, and it'll always pay off. I know I sound a bit like Ian Wright from The Overlap, but he's not wrong in saying it. But the truth of the matter is, for me, with Ollie Watkins, he needs to now start doing more goal-wise. If you're taking out your game of leading the line well and not doing as much pressing, by all means. But his first job for me, Rich, and Dan as well, since you're here, he should be scoring goals. That's the thing. Look at Alan. Doesn't exactly do all the pressing. Doesn't exactly run around a lot. When his chance comes, he's scoring goals.
Yeah, I don't think he's getting into as many positions at the minute to score those goals. That's where I think he's
because he's always constantly
drifting
himself out wide, and he shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, but then like I said, he's still receiving the ball in those positions. He's bringing people into play, so it is a difficult one for me. Like, And I'll come to you, Dan, just quickly with regards to other seasons, right? I don't know if it was last season or stage of last season where we were like, if Ollie Watkins or Morgan Rogers don't score, then Villa don't score because we're just so reliant on Watkins or Rogers. Now we have midfielders, now we have defenders, now we have multiple players that are scoring goals, and maybe not Ollie Watkins, and it's like, he's crap. What do we want here?
I think it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because with Emery, it was probably 18 months ago, and no, it was last January when he sold Duran, and we didn't get anyone else in, and people were like, I remember on Twitter, it was like, Emery doesn't know what he's doing, Monchi's this, Vidigani doesn't know this. We can't surely play with one striker, but Emery's done that at previous clubs where he hasn't liked really to have 3 or 4 strikers. He's had his main striker, and then he's had other players that can play in that role. But I think they've seen in the comments that if you're Watkins, knowing it's a World Cup year, you've surely got to be thinking like, I need to start putting the ball in the back of the net, because again, we've gone through a stage at England where now we've got so many number 10s, and we're spoilt for choice. But actually, in terms of strikers, it's Harry Kane or Watkins. And I know there were people, God knows who it was on Sky Sports, said, "Oh, Ivan Toney's a better option." You know, like, well, he's playing in a Farmers League against like whomever, and it's probably scoring a load of goals. But actually, that when you get into it, with all the World Cup team selections I've had to do in my years, you're going to look at who's scoring goals, and actually, we might not be have this conversation when he goes on one of those mad runs where he scores in 11 consecutive games, and by the end of the season, everything he touches goes in the back of the net. But as Martin said, he doesn't. I don't think he would even care at the moment, even if he could have a goal like Gesson scored in Holland, just something that hits him and just goes in. And then ever since he's come to the Villa, he's struck me as a confidence player. Once he gets one or gets a couple of like really clear cut opportunities, I think he'll have that belief. But at the moment, he's doing a lot of the working. The hard work, but it's just not coming off, and I think we'd be in a lot more difficult position if the other players weren't scoring, because we would be going, what is he actually doing for us? But we can hammer him now, and he'll go and score two at Anfield, and he'll be England's best striker. But who knows?
Yeah, no, I do actually agree with you, Martin, as well. Like, you know, ultimately, strikers, and I'm sure Ollie will judge himself on how many goals he's scoring, and he's not scoring enough at the moment. But I do think as a forward player, as a centre forward or striker, whatever you want to say, if you can have a good game without scoring a goal. You know, you can, and I actually think he was more effective as a forward player than Erling Haaland was again on Sunday. You know, he had more of an influence on the game than Haaland did. So in that sense, you know, he had a very good game in terms of comparing the two strikers who both didn't score. But yeah, I think also what doesn't work in Ollie's favour is that, and I've said this multiple times, he's not outstanding at anything. He's just decent at everything. Like he's quite fast, he's quite strong, he's quite good at heading, he's quite good at hitting striking the ball with his left or his right foot. But he's not outstanding at anything. He's not super quick. He's not super strong in the air. He's not super strong in terms of holding the ball up. He's just basically pretty good all rounder, and he's pretty good at everything. So whenever he's kind of whenever he's talked about in terms of like international football or in sort of the circles of the elite, it's like, well, you know, he's not quite that good, is he? But just because he's pretty good at everything. And I think that's what's kind of left him lacking quite a lot of the time. But I do agree, like he needs to he needs to book his ideas up in front of goal. He needs to actually put himself into positions where he actually is going to have a shot or going to do something, because at the moment he's just not. His touch isn't there in front of goal, or he's overthinking it, or he's second guessing himself, and he just needs to simplify his game in front of goal a bit more.
Yeah.
Just to round off the show, people, hit the like button. We're nearly 300 of you in the chat. Amazing stuff. We're on X and we're on YouTube. Follow Martin at Marto Leonardo. Follow Dan at the Villa Home, or Home of the Villa, on other socials as well. Follow me at Villa Park Pod or at Sud Rich, and make sure you hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. But Martin, you brought up this graphic, kindly done by Mark, who's our graphics man, about the top 4 / top 5 chances, and Villa with a 38% chance. I think it's according to Footy Rankings, isn't it? The social media site. Have we got a 38% chance of finishing in that top 5 position? What do you make of Villa's top 4 / top 5 chances, mate?
Look, I think if you told me at the start of that for 4 games, I would have said, "Oh, doom and gloom, forget about it. Good luck, lads. Good night." But I think now, if we go and beat Liverpool, I think the top 4, top 5 chances is very realistic for us to get. I just think that we can do it. We've shown we can do it, and it's better for us to be playing catch up now in this part of the season as opposed to when we were there in January, February playing catch up. And if we do that now and get a good run of form, I've more than enough belief that we can still finish top 4, top 5. Because I'm looking at the other clubs at the minute, like Newcastle. It's kind of gone under the radar that they're not performing really well. I'm looking at, Liverpool, who are starting to kind of fall under the cracks a little bit. Whether that continues, I don't know. I'm pretty sure they'll be okay. Chelsea seems to be back to their usual inconsistency best. So I just think it's the top 4, top 5 now is there for the taking, and we should really grab it with both hands.
Absolutely. Yes, Gary, I know according to those statistics, we have a 38% chance. Smart ass. But Dan, do you rate Villa's chances as higher than that? And also, are you surprised with, Liverpool? Do you think they could maybe fall out of this Champions League race the way that they are playing at the moment?
I think the next couple of games are going to be are certainly going to give us a good steer. I think every team is going to say if the squad can stay fit, then their team is going to win the league. But I think we are at a place now where we've got I want to say good enough squad to compete in Europe. We did lose against Go Ahead Pigeons, but other than that, I think if
they were called Go Ahead Pigeons, we might have won, mate. But anything with the Eagles name in it at the minute, we just don't have a chance of winning.
Yeah, I know, but no, I think they've got we've certainly got a better squad, and if we can keep the right players fit and keep them all fit, we've got enough players to be able to rotate and make changes without actually weakening the squad. You always know that your Man City are going to be given very good odds to finish up there, and I'd be surprised if they didn't finish in the top 4. Your Liverpool, God knows what's happening there. They're struggling with something that probably a lot of team or a lot of fans said they would, that they went and spent a load of money and going forward, but actually defensively there are some areas that they should have strengthened. So I think it'll be interesting to see what where we're at in January and what other clubs do in January, because if your Chelsea are falter a little bit, or your Liverpool, no doubt we'll have about £3.20 to spend. Can't bring anyone in, but Chelsea might spend 400 million in the window. Liverpool might go and offer 600 million for Konsa, and we'll still say no. I think I certainly think with Emery, I don't think we've got to worry about doing an Ange Postecoglou and win one trophy and finish where they did. So I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, well, if Kev was here, he'd be like, I'm sure right now he'd be like, why not? Why can't we go and win the league? Carpe diem and all that.
Yeah.
So who knows?
And you probably bring
I
like
think-
K-pop hunters into it.
Yeah, who knows? But Saturday, as you say, boys, is a massive game now. We move on to Liverpool on Saturday, which is big game, and we're in a really good spot now with those 2 wins, particularly against Tottenham and Manchester City, to go into that game with big confidence. Let's call it a night there, boys. Thank you so much for joining, Martin and Dan. Great to have you on. We'll be back. I believe Talking Tactics will be back tomorrow with Gareth. Amazing stuff. We've got Gareth back with the Talking Tactics show. So that'll be back out on Tuesday. And we'll also, I think we'll do a fans forum / Liverpool preview later this week as well. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Potentially Kev, Sam, who we want to get back on. They're busy liars, boys, busy liars, but we'll get them back on soon. To do that preview, and then we'll be doing instant reaction. We'll be doing full match reaction to the Liverpool game as well. So loads of shows to come. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button on your way out if you haven't already. Thank you all for watching, and as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.